The recording is in progress. Oh, what is your timeline, by the way?
Let's go. Let's start.
Okay.
56 minutes.
I have to be at the dentist in 56 minutes.
Okay.
Ooh.
Well, you'll just bop out when we start doing the
Yeah.
reviews or something.
In at birthday 44.
6.
46?
Yeah.
Damn, bitch, you old.
Certainly older than I am.
I was like, I remember 42. There must have been one in between. So I
Yeah,
guess he's 46.
well, remember, since
I could have
2020
just done
time quit
math.
making sense.
I know what year you're born in. So
Yeah.
Yeah, this one actually, that's part of the choicing of this movie, being a 1979 film and that being my birth year. It's all
Well,
that jazz. It's my birthday choice for films and filth. Hi, this is Matt here.
it's Mark.
it's Luke, and I'm flabbergasted.
He's
I mean,
flabbergasted.
Roy Scheider was about like your age. Okay, he was
Mm,
48 when he made this, I guess, or
okay.
47, depending on when it was filmed.
You're 47, right? Yeah.
So it's like
6.
it's like the halfway point. It's like that, you know, that frightening thing where you look back at the halfway point in your life and the life of the media that you consume.
Bob Fosse.
Anyway,
I was so yeah, this is a birthday movie.
what's
I was a little disappointed. I looked at my birthday's March and then this came out December 20th, so it was several months after. But what can you do?
You were alive for it then.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I could have gone to see it as I might have been able to just start about walking there, right? And go see all that jazz as a baby.
Hmm.
hmm. Okay.
I don't
So
know when
Matt,
babies start
what
walking.
whenever they want. Matt, what brings this film to you? What's your history? Why is this here?
Well,
What's your
what? Gee whiz. Yeah, one is the whole birth year thing, and
Hmm.
actually, this is only the second time I've watched the whole movie.
hmm.
But I've watched the final sequence like 100 times.
I think I've heard you bring up the final sequence a lot of times.
Yeah. Like I watched that like in my like along with my regular video rotation, which is like live Joy Division and B-52's videos and the end of all that jazz. Those are things I just end up watching late at night a lot. So
Hmm.
I saw the whole thing in university with a girlfriend being, "Oh, you don't like musicals, maybe you'll like this one," which she was correct. Yes, I will. I like a weird self-loathing, you know, surreal musical. I can do that.
I mean, I like on some level I like films where you experience the main character's slow death.
Right. Also, Mark,
There aren't
yes,
many of those.
for you, I'm like, here's a biopic that I think you would like. I mean, you can get to us if you like this movie or not, but I was like, this seems like a good biopic for Mark.
Yes, this is I don't know if you call this a self-own. It feels like Bob Fosse kind of hates himself, but also to the point where he makes himself his self-insert die at the end. Whereas he lived another 7 years. He did die of a heart attack, but he
Yeah, and
died of
then
a heart
died like
attack
he did in this movie.
walking. No, he didn't die like he did in this movie. He died just walking down the street to direct something. He died of,
Hmm.
workaholism, which is appropriate. This is a little different, but still,
Looking through the trivia, it was like Bob Fosse was still chain smoking while making this movie, and people were like kind of pointing out the absurdity of him making this movie while chain smoking. He's like, "Well, I've cut back to 5 packs a day."
I think this is a guy who hates himself and hates but I mean, he really commits to hating himself. I don't
Yes,
know.
yes,
It's admirable.
But
right,
yeah,
right.
I my only knowledge of this film was Matt bringing up the final sequence whenever we watch another musical. So I went into it basically, and I only realized that's what this film was right at the end. I was like, oh, this is that film Matt brings up.
Right.
So I was watching it like, why did Matt bring this to the table? Because this is a film about a guy who works so hard he kills himself. That's not relatable content to Matt.
If anything, like this is I relate super hard to this guy, actually. The difference being that when I was in the hospital, I became really careful and was not I've never really smoked cigarettes, but yeah, when I was in the hospital for something that was probably preventable, I just stopped drinking forever, which clearly that's different.
Mm.
But working myself to death, yeah, I do that.
I
I fuck
was
with that.
when I had a hospital stay, I was like discreetly sneaking out and stuff when I could. So I got that going.
We recorded a podcast with you in the hospital in the cafeteria, I think.
Yeah, yeah, in the day room. That's right. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I remember which one it was. Um,
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember listening to that.
but
Um,
yeah. Although there are things I do like the artistic obsessive working on things I do relate with. Like sitting
Mm.
around obsessively editing music or something
Yeah,
or
when you're
re-editing
meant to
that
be
sort of
doing
thing.
other work, which,
Well, most of that's done on my home computer, to be fair. But yeah, I just, like I'll take a long time with editing and all that sort of stuff. So, I do get that.
Mm.
well, I certainly avoid the level of success where would be reviewed by critics. Like I feel like I've intentionally avoided like having a high enough profile to where critics would be able to hurt my feelings. And
Yeah, the actual works Bob Fosse was doing at this point in time was he was directing Chicago, the premiere of Chicago. So here it's this weird LA AM PM thing with
Mm.
Mhm.
erotica and stuff. But he's doing that and making the movie Lenny, which is about Lenny Bruce and stars Dustin Hoffman. So the comic in this movie is the one that actually did the stage version, but
Mm.
they got Hoffman instead for the movie, so he's like, okay, come do it here. So he doesn't get to do the whole film, but I guess he gets a consolation prize. And I mean, this is a better movie than Lenny anyway. The thing with
Mhm.
Dustin Hoffman playing Lenny is he's really good, but he's not funny. Which if you're playing a comedian, that's
Mm.
like on
Um,
every other acting metric, he's good, but he's not funny.
Mm.
I feel like Lenny Bruce was Lenny Bruce sort of like the first comedian that sort of was allowed not to be funny because he was so pissed.
Yeah, kind of, and that's a later thing. He just starts showing up with like court documents and like reading them to the audience and stuff. So yeah,
Like definitely ahead of his time.
right, right, right. But so ahead of his time, he basically, it got to the point where he couldn't perform any places. Right, he was kind of banned from everywhere.
Yeah, he was like barred entry to the UK and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then he had something else to talk about.
Hmm.
right, right.
All these woke countries not letting me in. Oh, maybe he's not that ahead of his time. Um, is this the only? Okay, I do have to bring this up that I don't think there are any musicals on the good list at all that aren't like animated Disney type.
We did Singing in
We
the
had Singing
Rain.
in the Rain.
Okay, that's true. Shit, yeah, that was actually one of my favorite movies. I don't know why I
I mean, that
forgot
was
about
right
that.
up top,
That was that was so meta that I almost don't. I almost think of it more as a movie about musicals than I do an actual musical.
Mm.
I'm making the scan right now, and yeah, you might be right. Yeah, like The Lion King is a musical, but it's animated.
But this isn't really a traditional musical either. This is a weird, you know, this is also meta.
Yeah, it's like Fellini making a musical or something, right?
Yeah, I saw something that said this was influenced by Eight and a Half, and like I read that halfway through watching. I was like, oh, of course, that makes lots of sense. Eight and a
Yes,
Half,
yes.
which should be on the good list,
Well, give it a
probably.
couple years and maybe Joker Folie à Deux will be on the good list.
Ooh.
I have not watched that yet, but
I
I've
probably will
heard.
watch it when I watch Joker, which I've
Yeah,
also
yeah,
not
Me
watched
that's
yet.
too.
that's kind of the page I'm on. Just to get back to you, there may be some bad list musicals, but
Yes,
yeah, nothing
Cats.
on. Oh, right,
Cats,
right.
which
Yeah,
Cats, which is
okay.
born of this era, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Cats is very much a product of this, whatever
Yeah,
you call the 70s ness.
it's
Uh,
the 80s version. It's leg warmers, right?
we
And
had Three Idiots on the good list. That has
Oh,
musical
you're
numbers.
right. That was a musical, and that was also really good. It just it that it also throws
Hollywood
me
again goes
because
into its own little category, right?
well, also that for a Bollywood film that had very like what did that have like three musical numbers? That's
Yeah, one
in
of
a
them was the
3 hour
same
film.
song like two or three times.
So that is also an outlier. Like I
Mm.
just guess there isn't like a traditional one.
except for Singing in
Um,
the Rain. But
except for
yeah,
Singing in the Rain. Okay,
this
that's
this
fair.
even like mostly commits the sin of being a jukebox musical, right? I mean, there's a few
Hmm.
original songs, of course, but yeah, there's on Broadway, there's Bye Bye Life at the end, right? All that sort of stuff. So it even jukeboxes a little bit, which is usually a terrible mistake in a musical. But It
Well,
worked. Well,
on
I guess so
Broadway
was Singing in the
is
Rain. Yeah, when you get
well,
down
on
to it.
Broadway isn't is a musical number that's set to a recording. It's not sung by any characters in the film. That's just, the whole thing is this does kind of jump around as far as to what it is. And you could argue the stuff that's going on inside of his head, is that really a musical number? Did it really happen? Um,
But I think you can say
I
that about
guess
all musicals, right? Like, am
yeah,
I supposed to believe the
a lot of
songs are
stuff.
actually happening, or
Yeah, Singing in the Rain definitely has that modern dance number that's like that wouldn't have happened. That's like some
So why not just have weird hallucinations with ghoulish doctors and,
yeah.
cabaret singers and stuff? That works.
No,
You're
yeah,
watching it on screen, right? So that makes it as much a musical as anything else. If you're
I
watching on
could
screen, they're singing and dancing.
I couldn't have made better choices for this film than the film made for itself. Like it is definitely a weird ass.
Well,
This how many
there are
movies did he? He only
Bob
directed like
Fosse,
5 movies. Yeah,
5 or 6, yeah. Sweet Charity, Cabaret, this Lenny, Star 80. Am I forgetting something? I don't
Star
know.
80 was after this, but
It was
yeah.
after this, and it's not a musical, and it's not
Hmm.
that great either. I mean, this is his last
Mm,
good movie. Um,
nah.
but yeah, I should read, I guess, just a quick story. It's a quick one. There's not much story to this. It's weird once you break it down. So, Joe Gideon is busy juggling directing both a new Broadway musical and editing a major motion picture. Not to let this get in the way of his rampant pill popping, smoking, drinking, and womanizing. During a script read through, he begins experiencing chest pains and ends up in the hospital ICU receiving open heart surgery. All of this does not go well. Joe continues to party in the hospital and begins having hallucinations, melding his showbiz life with his hospital stay. This culminates in a TV variety show Spectacular, in which Joe sings goodbye to his life and joins the Angel of Death. Cue the body bag. Um, as I was looking through a trivia, it's always interesting to see who the original choice was. For this one was Jaws co-star Richard Dreyfuss, which he's a little too young, I think, to do it here. I mean, he looks like an old man, but he's probably like 35 at this time, you know?
No idea. I didn't think that Roy Scheider had this in him. So who the hell knows?
That's part of that's part of the reason I like this movie is because I know Roy Scheider from 2010 and Jaws, where he's like kind of a stoic guy, right? Very calm guy. So the idea of him playing Bob Fosse in this seems insane, and then he pulls it off. So
Yeah, he does right up to his like his posture, and I read that it looks like he never done any kind of dance training at all up until he did this, and then like the first scene they shot was the one where he's like kind of throwing his daughter around when they're doing those dance things. I was like, you could have fooled me, dude. He had the he
he
has
said that's the first scene they shot too, apparently.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like he had the he was doing like the body movement. He had the posture of a dancer, which is like not the posture he had in Jaws. Like
Hmm.
he knows he understands like the physicality of what this dude would be like. So
Right,
yeah,
right. Um, Looking through the cast list, also there's one thing is his ex-wife slash business partner. The actress's name is Leland Palmer, which just like that
yeah.
breaks my mind because that's of course the Laura Palmer's father on Twin Peaks.
I'm pretty sure that he had to have named
I am
Leland
wondering
Palmer
if
after her, right? That's the only possible explanation.
she's still alive, and this is the last movie she made, so I guess she just opted out.
Yeah, there was a weird thing where the girl who played his daughter like stopped acting and became a born again Christian or something. Like
Okay.
there's some weird, I don't know, weird people quitting after
I mean,
this, which is
your first
interesting.
exposure to show business was this. Maybe you would think I better get out before it kills me.
Yeah, interesting.
We get a flash of John
Second,
Lithgow. I guess he hadn't
yeah,
been quite
Oh, when
made it.
John Lithgow showed up, I was like, "Oh, this is why Matt likes it." But he wasn't actually in it that much.
No,
well
he's
the
just like 30 seconds.
Although he is, it's my first time seeing John Lithgow play such a like despicable little character.
Well, he's of course, he's just based on Bob Fosse's actual rival Broadway director, you know?
Yeah.
Like probably nothing wrong with that guy at all. They just were competing.
Oh, even here, like obviously within the context of the film, you dislike the character, but he's not necessarily doing anything wrong. You know, you got to jump on these opportunities when you work in this kind of industry, right?
Yeah, yeah. By the way, speaking of Fosse teaching Roy Scheider how to dance, apparently he also gave him coughing lessons to so he'd do his hacking cough properly, which it is like kind of frustrating and annoying in the movie, but that is, I guess, part of the push. Like this guy's falling apart, so of course this is
Yeah.
happening.
It's like
Yep.
the George Lucas getting a cough during the production of Revenge of the Sith and then just deciding General Grievous is going to have a cough.
I would mention that working, yeah.
Well, it was one of the only interesting characters in all the prequel trilogy, even though he was more interesting in the cartoon, which he was a completely different character.
Mhm.
But I mean the Tartakovsky one.
I know.
Anyway, okay.
I never assume you're talking about the 3D animated Clone Wars.
I haven't seen it, so I don't have no idea if General Grievous is in it, but I would just sort of assume he was.
I'm pretty sure he shows up somewhere in there.
He is, but hilariously, they're written into a corner where he can never meet Anakin on screen because in the film they mention it's their first time meeting.
Right.
So they have to constantly Fifth Element themselves around, not quite meeting each other for like 6 seasons of television.
Well, let's have the Men in
This
Black show up
is
and mind wipe them. You know, they don't remember it.
No, this
I'm
is why
meeting
you
you for
should
the
write
first time for the
things.
last time.
This is why you should make things in order and don't go backwards.
Hmm. Right, right. You know, you if you killed Grievous, Grievous is finished. You can't use Grievous anymore. You broke that
Yeah.
toy. You can't have it
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, look at what they brought Darth Maul back, and then that movie failed, and then their plans were all ruined. So
Isn't he
like,
a
look
Spider-Man
at
now or
that.
something?
He's like half a guy or something
Yeah,
with like a thing on him.
half the man he used to be.
But
Um,
maybe he died again on his way back to his home planet. Who the hell
something
knows?
something this movie does much better in the Star Wars prequels is have like crackling dialogue and all that jazz. I was writing down a fair amount of the quotes. Death is really a hip thing now. Death is in. That's fun. From the stand up, but the top line is just you're generous with your cock, which I was like, I thought that was yeah. Don't bullshit a bullshit. That shows up somewhere else. I see what's her name saying it, and
I
maybe
mean,
maybe it's in A Mighty Wind.
why is it a lot of things? I
And
thought that was a
yeah,
common phrase.
yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It just stood out, so I wrote it down for whatever reason. Hmm.
I mean, it occurred more than once in this film, but I think one of the times, at least one of the times, was like inside of his unconscious when he's dying or something.
Yeah, yeah. Like there were things I do like. I mean, maybe that's another thing that appeals to me is when you can't really tell if this is a real scene or not. Like, especially like near the end when he's escaping his hospital room when he's partying in there, it's kind of hard to tell where the reality begins, man, you know?
Yeah, well, I certainly didn't expect it to go the way it went.
No, no, it's like a weird hospital drama, and I do like how the songs like include hospital noises and stuff. So, you know, you get for Bye Bye Life, you get like kind of like disco effects that are like defibrillators or whatever.
Yep, and you see the what is it? The CR-78 drum machine makes a few appearances.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, they have that nice ghoulish drummer at the end. I
Yeah,
was,
yeah, of course.
you know, there's a job I'd like. I think I'd like to be one of the musicians that just kind of hangs around as the skeleton crew for a Broadway rehearsal.
Well, sure. I was definitely super intimidated by some of the musicians, singers, dancers, especially like the piano playing guy who was just like, "Oh, let's come up with a song and play." I was like, "Oh God, I can't imagine."
Well, even the scenes where it's the others talking about him being in hospital feel like they could be him imagining like the best case scenario. Where it's like, oh, everyone's gonna wait for me, and they're having a good song and a dance while I lie in hospital, and it's all fine. Like that could
Yeah.
be as imaginary as when he's having wacky misadventures in the hospital. It's
Yeah,
almost
so
like I feel like everything from the 1 hour mark onwards takes place in his head. But like some of it could be real, but that real events also take place in our heads. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm assuming that he
Well,
did kind of run off at the end, just before his final exit and need to be
yeah.
escorted back. I'm pretty sure that was
But
a
also because it that scene stops being played with any big lights and showbiz. It's just him and the orderly quietly in the cafeteria. Like that's the one scene that calms down for a bit, so that feels like the most real.
well, he's not calm, but yes, yes, the rest of it is.
well, but yeah,
No,
there's
yeah,
always
the two actors are not, but I mean like the situation. It's like the camera's not really moving. You're in a very realistic hospital. They're just singing and dancing. Like there stops being any pizzazz for that one scene.
Mm-mm. Yeah, yeah. I guess the rest of it drowning in pizzazz.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe this is the only place I will accept jazz hands. That's it's like Led Zeppelin or something where they were pretty good, but everyone that was inspired by them like sucks.
well, um, I there was one scene, I'm trying to. I didn't take any notes because I just felt like I couldn't.
Hmm.
Um, the one scene where he does the musical number to show the whatever the investors, and they were kind of like, "That was way too horny. What are you doing?" I wasn't entirely sure whether I was supposed to think that that was like ridiculous and it should be a joke,
This is
or that
erotica.
yeah. I was like, I was kind of like not sure whether I was supposed to think that that was brilliant or like a complete farce.
Hmm.
And what went through my mind is kind of the showgirls thing where, there's these giant like booby productions with tons of money thrown into them, right? It's like
Yeah.
it seems like it exists outside of my experience of life. Like Broadway, I went in, we had a high school trip. We saw Les Mis on Broadway, and then I did see Cats in Atlanta, and that's the extent of my having seen like live musical production of this nature. So I definitely haven't seen the horny ones.
I mean, I've seen more like weird transgressive art and like strange noise music and stuff like that than I have seen actual legitimate plays. And
Right, so
definitely
you're
never been to Broadway.
so you're
You know.
off Broadway, you know?
I mean, like, yeah, yeah. One time there was a thing. There was these things. I don't know if they still happen, but it was like International Noise Conference (INC). There's like an Atlanta branch of it, and one of the performances was like there was a guy on a furniture dolly, and there was a microphone taped to it, and he was like, I think partially nude, but he was like in one corner of the room, and the microphone was picking things up, and it was like one girl in one corner of the room was just like taping him up with mailing tape, so the microphone was like picking up the noise of the tape, and then pushed him across the room across like some kind of wire that was also making noise, and then the girl at the other end of the room put a bunch of tape on him and then pushed him back the other way. And this just continued until he was completely covered with tape. Like
Okay.
I've seen more of that than I have of actual plays.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that's not what they're doing here. I am in the weird position. I think I've seen more operas than musicals live, which is weird because I like opera less than musicals, but it's just
Mm.
circumstances and things.
Well, if somebody says, "Hey, let's go to the opera," then you'd probably just say, "Sure."
If
No,
you're
I
paying.
think if you're paying, yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, I'm like maybe I've learned, if I can get out of it easily, I'll get out of it.
Well, yeah, I don't. I'm not a huge opera person. I feel like I would. I don't know
The
if I've
last time
even
my
seen an
wife's
opera.
friend was involved in the production of the opera, it was Madame Butterfly, and it's we watched it 3 hours to see her play dead at the end, right? She didn't sing or anything; she was a corpse at the end, like
What
one of
does
I
the.
matter?
always tell this story, but I was cast as Romeo in a school play, but it was a production of After Juliet, a modern play set after the events of Romeo and Juliet. So I just had to lie in the mausoleum for a scene.
Luke, you ever make your way to the West End or anything?
I've been to some, yeah, I've been, unlike you guys, to mostly quite traditional musicals. I went to like Blood Brothers and I can't remember the other one I saw. It was quite a big production. And I've been to Jeff Wayne's musical version of The War of the Worlds live on stage.
Oh, neat.
Okay,
Yeah,
see
it's
someone
sick as
saying we're
hell.
going to go see that. Yeah, sure, let's do it, you know. That's a no-brainer. I'll go to that. I would be more
Like,
if someone said I got a free ticket of a musical, let's go see the musical version of Wicked. I'm sure, why not, you know?
I
Yeah,
love
I'm gonna go see the
musicals.
Wicked in the theater. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love musicals, but it's just so much easier to watch them on a screen than it is to like go and to watch them live. That sounds like such a cop out where I'm like, it's so much easier just to watch them on my TV at home.
Yeah.
But
Well, there's the whole
it's
conundrum of, live, of course, it's on a stage and it's you are watching as a continuous take, but if you do that in a movie, it's boring. So now you have to start cutting and editing, but at which point are you distorting the choreography or whatever? I guess it helps that the choreographer is the director of the movie.
like I haven't watched the film of version of Hamilton. I haven't seen Hamilton at all. I'm kind of afraid that I won't like it,
Mm.
so I just have been avoiding it, but I probably would like it and I should just do it, but it's like, oh, it's 4 hours.
yeah, I'm a little hesitant to watch Hamilton because it all just feels a little bit West Wing.
It feels a little bit like that picture of Lin Manuel Miranda biting his lip. Like, remember that picture? You guys don't
Oh,
No,
remember
you
that
just got
picture?
blank stares coming your way.
Well, I guess I have to put it in the chat,
Nothing
but
but
anyway.
blank stares for your picture that's showing up soon, I guess. Um, yeah,
Yep.
but when you hear about like Broadway history or something, and people are just naming off musicals, I'm like, I don't know what half of these are, you know? I guess this one kind of benefits from specifically being a film. This isn't something that played on the stage, of course, because you couldn't do this on a stage. Maybe that's one of the fascinating things about this one is it's very much a film. It's not like a stage musical. You
but
could
it's like a
stage the numbers,
film
but
about stage musicals in a way. But
yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess it's a back that gets back to your question, like, is this really a musical? That would be a more compelling reason to me that
mm,
it's a film, you know. You couldn't stage this without radically changing it. I mean, someone's probably staged it at some point, but
Yep.
legacy. Let's see if someone is
I think
final.
when I was browsing the Wikipedia, it was mostly like they have staged certain numbers from it and stuff. Oh yeah, I do recognize that. That's like the one picture I know of the bloke.
Yeah. Yeah, people were making memes of it by the hundreds
But what if
immediately.
I
But
could prove that I never touched my balls?
No, actually, I've never seen that picture. What do you know? Okay.
uh, I
So,
mean, God, he wrote some really good music for Disney musicals. But
Yeah, but then he did the. Have you seen that song from the new Lion King?
no, I think I heard about it.
I heard it in a store and then became a little bit obsessed with it because it does get stuck in your head, but it's so bad.
Well, it's like Lion King. I mean, God, that
here's the
just.
live action version. It's animated again.
But yeah, it's animated but worse. I
Animated,
don't
but in
know,
a way with
man.
no soul.
Yeah.
Like literally, why do you want to why does Disney insist on redoing the things that complete like if Little Mermaid and Lion King and Aladdin the animated versions hadn't done what they did, then Disney might not even exist now. Like
Hmm.
those were so important and it feels kind of like, oh, well, this is now it's this. The
I
live
just
action stuff, which we never did well with.
I just assume that they have to remake them to keep some kind of copyright.
Maybe. Since
Also
they're
just
all
puts
like
the
based
name
on
back into the like Snow White is about to come out. It's live action. I'm not going to go see it, but I am thinking about the original movie again. So maybe
hmm.
Hmm.
maybe I'd go watch it on Disney Plus or something, which if I were in the States or something, right? It kind of just brings the name back into the cultural consciousness a little bit and kind of amps up the original as well. So, I mean,
Yeah.
people seem to quickly forget about the live action versions and then just kind of drift on back to the original, but they've been reminded of the original, you know?
Do you think
It
it's just
probably
a
is just like an extremely low risk proposition. Like enough people are going to see it that they're going to get their return on investment.
Yeah, yeah. But then, the cultural
Yeah.
profit they make, it probably makes it somewhat worth the money because they're going to make a ton of money just from the original, like more from the IP than they
Yeah,
would have
yeah,
had they
yeah.
not done it.
It's gonna mean a new generation of kids are gonna be interested in Snow White when they come to Disneyland.
Yes. But so it doesn't have to be good, you know? That's the unfortunate bottom line there. Like you can make a crappy movie and it's fine if it breaks even and
I mean,
makes everyone remember it. So,
I
Um,
mean, or they
But
could
that
just get
also kind
someone.
of does come up in this film where like the review is savaging his movie, but they're like, yeah, but it's gonna make like $1 billion, 50 million domestic, so who cares?
Well,
But
there's a
of
weird thing
course,
where,
for him as a director, he would rather it be good.
yeah, you make
But
art, you want
the
people to like
studio
it.
guys are like, oh yeah, but we're gonna make a shitload of money, so who cares?
Yeah, but the studio guys also said a lesbian scene is a turnoff.
But I thought that was his daughter who said that.
yeah,
Oh, was it his daughter?
yeah,
Okay,
it was
sure.
his daughter.
Oh, okay, okay.
I
And
I think the joke there was just that he was trying to pussyfoot around what a lesbian was, but actually she knew full well what it was. She just wasn't into
okay,
Well,
it.
even
gotcha.
that, like she started out like, what is that supposed to be? What's happening? And then later says, I find a lesbian scene to be a turnoff. I was like, what the hell is going on? That kid was pretty amazing. Like
No, the
she's,
kid was great. She felt like an actual character, not just a kid who was there to be like, look, he has a daughter. Isn't it sad that he dies?
yeah, exactly.
The
Um,
actual movie Lenny, which is his not considered to be Fosse's best, definitely made a profit. On a 3 million budget, box office almost 12 million. So, that what the critics said is pretty much what happened with the movie Lenny. Um, all that jazz. Okay, all that jazz also made a profit, had a kind of a three multiplier, $12 million. They went over budget, of course, making insane crap like the final sequence. So,
The bit I found interesting about all that jazz was that Kubrick called it the best film he'd ever seen.
yeah,
I
I
But
kind of wondered
this
if
is
that's
a
why you
film
watched it.
Kubrick could never make.
That's true, but yeah, I'm having trouble wrapping my head around him saying that. I'm like, what is so appealing? Is it because he could never make this?
But yeah, because like remember when we talked about The Shining, and I was saying, my impression of Kubrick is that he thinks Kubrick is the best thing on earth. So for him to see a director who so clearly fucking hates himself, I can see why
Yeah.
that would catch Kubrick's attention.
I think visually this movie is definitely on point. Like, you know what I mean? It kind of has to be because it's constantly displaying the intricacies of Broadway. Like everything has to look good, right? Like it's
Mm.
just I guess the infrastructure is there. This is another like we live in a society. It's like the all these crazy sets. I mean, all this infrastructure for Broadway to be this big massive thing just already exists, and they have
Yeah, this
like
movie's kind of like a totem for the glam 70s, you know? I mean, you go to like all the President's Men if you just want gritty 70s, right? Um,
but if you look up like, discos from the 70s, like what they looked like, there was one in Atlanta that was like, I cannot believe how insane this looks.
oh, you're giving us a
And
picture?
just
Okay.
no, I was seeing if I could find one real quick. But yeah, there's stuff where it's just like, I cannot believe someone built this. It looks so like the,
I mean, you draw a line from the Milk Bar in A Clockwork Orange to the variety show set. All the weird statues around and stuff.
yeah. All right. Actually, I did find this used to be. I don't know if you ever went to the Disco Kroger, Matt, but it was called the Disco Kroger because it was next to this disco, which this doesn't
No,
even look real. Like if you look at the picture of it, but it was called the Limelight, and it just looks like it looks
I think
fake. It
I
just
think
doesn't
we've
look
just
real.
I think we've discussed before. I've been to the Murder Kroger a lot, but oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
That looks like where the Power Rangers speak to Zordon.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like a Sun Ra, like if Sun Ra had millions of dollars of a
That looks
budget.
like if the film Stargate was made 20 years earlier.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is why don't we have things like the same? Well, that's a great question. I guess Tokyo has some things like not specifically like this, but definitely on, pretty high on the whack meter you can go eat in.
Yeah, it has that
Right.
dance hall with just two statues of the alien outside for some reason.
Well, it's just one of those things where the if society has a will to build something, then it'll get built, and if they don't, then it won't.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So
We need
like,
to get back into neon, yeah.
yeah. But you know what? It's like
You could
you
just go to a
can.
disco in the metaverse now, so why would you need to build that?
This is probably almost qualifies as conspiracy theory, but I do think that like LEDs now can do pretty much anything that neon used to be able to do, but for a fraction of the cost. And I
Mm.
think people are so used to LEDs being everywhere that it like has lost its appeal and nobody wants to do crazy stuff with them.
Mm.
Mm. Well, you need to open an LED disco. That's what you gotta do, right?
Sure. But
I'm still
but there's also the problem of the way the human eye works, which is like if you put a ton of LEDs in one place, then it's probably so bright that it'll just overload your vision. You won't really
we'll go
get any.
blind. It's like
You
staring
won't.
at the
No,
sun
you
during an
no. You
eclipse.
just you won't experience it as if it was. There's the whole dynamic range problem. Um, I feel like I don't even want to try to explain that. But,
Mark Malik,
it's
professor of disco science.
light pollution. Ah,
Your eyes can only detect so many different things at a time.
yeah, and I think also stuff with black walls everywhere is kind of fallen out of favor because it's impossible to clean them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
nightclub in my hometown, it never stopped being sticky.
Yeah, you kind of have to have the black walls for the contrast.
right, right. So anyway, yeah, it's a prime disco material here, prime disco material in the past. We've missed disco. So I don't know what I guess there's Xanadu. That's some pretty glam 70s.
I've never seen that, and I really want to, and that's been sort of near the top of my want to see list.
It's another film
Um,
that I only know exists because Matt brings it up a lot.
I don't think I bring up
yeah,
Xanadu that much.
I think
Maybe I
you bring
think
up the actual Xanadu.
oh yeah, Lost Horizon, which is a different movie, but the movie Xanadu is about a nightclub
Right.
called
I mean, I,
Xanadu. Lost Horizon's about the place called Xanadu. So
I mean, the song is great. Olivia Newton-John is great. I don't know how she is as an actor, but I love her music. So
hmm.
yeah, I want to check it out at some point.
ELO, they're involved with that one. Yeah.
Nice.
Um, but let's see. I mean I did take some notes, but yeah, this is kind of just a big scene picture. It's two acts, and again, there's not much story. It's just like vibes. It's a
I,
vibe
I
movie.
was I was watching the film and I got to like his movie had just been premiered, like the production was, and I was like, kind of feels like all the plots have wrapped up. What's going on? And like I looked at my time, oh, I'm only halfway through the film, and then yeah, he immediately has a heart attack. So I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's where the film's going.
it feels kind of like the behind the scenes of something where and then you think that it's going to be more than behind the scenes, and it's just behind the scenes. And then the guy dies, and you're like inside of his brain, which is a weird swerve.
Yes. I mean, it is like two completely different movies, but which doesn't always work. There's the old Full Metal Jacket problem, but or Wally as we've discussed, but this one this seems to thread the needle pretty well.
I think it's more cohesive than Full Metal Jacket is, because Full Metal Jacket literally, it's like the main characters of the first half die. You know what I mean? Like that's die violently.
Yeah.
You're still seeing the same people through this. So this is Jessica Lange's second movie after King Kong 1976.
Wow, that's an insane filmography to start off with.
That's wild. She's King Kong's girlfriend, and then she's like Bob Fosse's dead wife.
Yeah.
Her
Wild
scenes felt
career.
very Lynchian,
Yeah.
just like appearing in thought zones and saying cryptic things in a like white gown.
Yeah, like I didn't when I was writing the plot description, I didn't
She didn't
except
come
for the
up in
very
it.
end.
Yeah.
Well, I said he joins the Angel of Death at the end, cue the body
Right, right,
bag.
right.
But otherwise, like, how do you include that in? It's like this weird Greek chorus thing, That
Yeah, that was my main clue to the possibility that he was actually going to die at the end. Because, obviously I looked up whether he whether he was dead in real life before he made this. Obviously he wasn't because he made the movie. Well.
At one point he wanted to play himself in it too. He wanted to play Joe
Yeah.
Gideon, but his producer was like, if you do this, you're actually going to die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like,
This
you're gonna have a heart
playing
attack, and then he
playing this
did.
role will kill you. So he, turned it over to
He,
an actor.
man.
That is spitting in the face of death to be like, I'm gonna play a character going through the very things that you're trying to kill me with.
The things that I almost died from doing. Yeah, I'm going to do it again
And
on
then
film.
and then do die from doing.
We're still
That's a
happy
weird
to film the
sentence.
thing while chain smoking, so Um,
I think he knew what was going on, you know, then that kind of just makes me like him more.
Yeah, I got to respect it to a certain extent.
mm.
Yeah.
Also, just throwing out that Bob Fosse seems to be the actual originator of the moonwalk, having done it in The Little Prince in like 74 or something.
Mm.
There's
Nice.
footage of him doing the moonwalk around in the mid 70s. So, I mean, he, obviously didn't popularize it as other people did, but yeah, jazz hands and the moonwalk, we can credit him with those.
So his co-writer did die before this came out.
That is correct.
Robert Allen Arthur, or Arthur? That's a weird name. Aurthur? Arthur?
Author.
Arthur?
Now I have to look at his name. Oh yeah, that is weird. Okay,
He's one of the
Arthur.
authors of this film.
He's an
Arthur.
Arthur of this film. That's how I spelled author in the third grade, you know?
Yeah, it seems like it. Like he let some kid write his mom let his like 2-year-old brother write spell his name. It's like, what do you think his name should be? Arthur. Oh, it'd be funny if that was real.
I
He
do
Uh,
have
was
a
married to
friend
B
who's
author. Oh, that's
uh,
confusing. He was married to B author, and then B
oh,
author's name is spelled Arthur.
I have a
what the
friend who has a
hell?
double-barreled first name, but it's only because her mum didn't understand how you're meant to write middle names on the paperwork. So it was
Oh,
meant to be like Cassandra Louise, but her name is Cassandra Louise because her mum put a
mm.
hyphen in there without realizing you're not meant to.
Well, you
Oops.
know the age-old story about how Oprah's name was supposed to be Orpah, which is like
Yep,
a
yep, yep.
biblical name, and they misspelled it.
What's the name?
Orpah?
I didn't know that was a name. Okay.
It's a
Yeah, it's from the
biblical
Bible. But
name.
it's also like many things Oprah says, that could also just be something she made up later.
Yeah, who knows?
Of course, Harry
It
S.
sounds
Truman's middle name
plausible.
was S. That's fun.
Like Homer J. Simpson's middle name is J.
Yeah. Except that that his was at least spelled Jay. Harry S.
Yeah.
Truman's, it's just the S that actually is his middle name.
I have a friend with no middle name, and he just
Well,
lists his
welcome to Japan.
he lists his middle name on social media as R in quotation marks
Hmm.
because why not?
Both my parents don't have middle name. Oh no, both my siblings don't, and my dad doesn't, but my mum does.
Hmm.
And yeah, I went through a phase of it adding an because I have two middle names, and I put a th I was trying to put danger in between the two of them, so I could like legally say mid danger is my middle name,
Hell yeah.
and I just never got around to it. I grew out of it before I actually paid the money to change my name by default.
Well,
Helm.
Luke, I guess we gotta toss you the floor for film or filth. What combination? What is this for you?
It's a film about the filth of films,
Hmm.
but it's very much a film. This was like a very high quality movie. I feel like I don't have much to say about it because it's such a like little personal piece. And it's a film that benefited from me having a little glance at the Wikipedia and being like, oh, this is semi-autobiographical. And just having that little bit of knowledge in my head watching the film made like because there are elements where you could criticize like this is a film with quite an unlikable main character at times. Although I think like he has enough charm to get through the fact that he's a piece of shit.
Well, that's what Ben Vereen says at the end, right?
Yeah.
Adored by many, loved by none.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly the pitch he's playing here. And yeah, you can't make the lead character this despicable unless like the actual guy is writing and directing, you know?
Yeah.
you, he definitely feels super realistic in that he sort of, you know, tries to tell his family that he loves them, but also is just trying so hard to keep his distance from
Oh,
everybody, including his girlfriend, mistress, whoever. I was
I've
having
been
trouble keeping track of those.
I've been recording too many podcasts. I gotta I gotta I'm gonna have to
Beep, 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 beep.
So
Beep.
what do you think of the final the final scene? I have heard some argument because he gets zipped up in the body bag. Do you think putting there's no business like show business is the correct move, or should it just be straight up silence?
Um, I think it's fine. I don't think that it you see where it's going, so it didn't have to do an abrupt, you know what I mean? Like it didn't have to like silence would have been more appropriate if I had no idea where it was going. If that makes sense.
Right. I do have some. Yeah, I guess my point is, I think the argument is interesting to consider, though I don't think it's a flaw in the film.
Yeah.
Because you do think, well, also, if you really want that version, just hit the mute button, you know? You can have that version.
If you really feel like doing that much work,
It's a
uh,
one button. You hit the mute button, you're good to go. It's easy.
I guess my answer is it didn't it didn't feel like something in my head that would be worth arguing over.
No, no,
So
but I thought it was an interesting thought experiment, though, having the movie go a slightly different way. Because that is the final, tone, right, of the whole thing.
I think that a l- I can in my head see the lesser version of this, which is that he survives and then just starts smoking at the very end anyway, or something like that. Um,
I do have some reviews here. Here's a 1 star.
okay.
Um, Ridiculous film about a showbiz loser that doesn't make sense at all. All That Jazz is one of the worst films I've ever seen. First of all, the opening scene goes on for a lifetime. We understand that they dance and they are hardworking dance students. Second, Roy is ugly as hell and cannot act at all. You do not believe that he is a showbiz man for a second. The film is approximately 2.5 hours, but feels like 12. I saw it on cable one night and will never ever forget that night. I still had to buy it the other day on DVD just to see it again. And oh my God, I was taken back to that night of hell once again. Now I use to lend the DVD to friends just to make their lives miserable. Finally, the music is so bad that you need to listen to good music for hours afterwards just to stay sane.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm kind of skimming all the 1 star reviews, which there are four of, and that's
Yeah, I guess
probably the
this
best
movie's
one.
generally well regarded, yes. Um,
Well regarded and probably not. Um, I don't know. I don't think a lot of people are. I don't think this is foisted upon a lot of people, and I don't think a lot of people like wander into this
yeah,
not
you're
knowing
kind
what
of
they're getting into, and etc.
intentionally kidding there.
This is yeah, like how many reviews are there? 203 reviews? That doesn't wait. That doesn't ratings is the number that you usually
Okay.
go by. 37,000 ratings. Okay, that's a lot of ratings. Um
Here we go. If Bob Fosse were alive today, I would advise him to stick to choreography and Roy Scheider stick to shark hunting.
yeah, which he
He did a lot more than that.
famously kind of hated Shark Hunt. He kind of hated working on the Jaws movies,
Yet he
especially
did
the second one.
Sequest.
I'm sure that by the time he did Sequest, it was probably like, well, all the things work, and it's probably just a whatever 90s TV was probably a pretty cushy gig.
And it wasn't that focused on shark hunting in that show. Did they have sharks on that show at all? I don't know. They had that dolphin. I remember that. I never really watched that show.
I don't, I never really watched it myself. I didn't really think that oceans were cool when I was a kid.
Mm.
I wanted to
You,
see space.
so at Epcot, you were not into the living seas.
I mean, sure, experiencing them in person, sure, but like watching shows about them, it's like, I didn't care.
Okay.
I didn't really like dinosaurs either. Like when I was a kid, I had a very narrow range of interests, and it was mostly like robots, aliens, space.
How about the
Uh,
show Dinosaurs? That had to get your attention.
I didn't really like it. I thought it was annoying.
Oh, okay.
Just like the baby was screaming, and
Yeah.
the dad
The
was
baby's
Ralph
intentionally
Cramden,
annoying.
who I
Right.
didn't like.
But
I didn't like Fred Flintstone either.
you can appreciate it now, though, right? Because of
Yeah,
how insane that show is production wise.
yeah. No, my tastes have changed a lot. Like I didn't. There's a lot of. I don't talk about this a lot on this podcast. There's a lot of stuff I didn't like when I was a kid.
Mm.
Like I don't think I never saw a Godzilla movie when I was a kid, but I probably would have assumed I wouldn't like it.
Yeah, I got into my kaiju flicks much later. I mean,
I was
the
like,
only,
oh, it's a guy in a suit. I was one of those. I was one of those kids who's like, it's a guy in a suit.
and now it's like
It's
it's a
fake.
guy in a suit, you know.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's the difference.
Yeah, and
Um,
I didn't like wrestling. I was like, this fake guy in a suit, whatever, all that.
well, the wrestlers aren't wearing the suits; they do build up those
Some of them
muscles.
are.
Yeah. Oh, okay, some of them have various suits of different kinds.
Yeah, that luchador isn't really a mystical being with a mask that gives him power.
Yes, it is.
Well, now I understand that it is.
Okay. Um, do you want to throw out any final thoughts on all that jazz?
It was cool. It was kind of you could kind of call this Disco Dead Man.
Okay, yeah, sure, why not? I like that.
It's
That'd be
like
a better
that
title, maybe.
requires yeah, that requires a knowledge of a movie that came out like 25 years after this, but you
But
know,
and also they can't change the name because they made that really expensive sign at the beginning.
of course. And there's no it's not like Edge of Tomorrow. You don't just change it 50 years after it comes or for
That is
46 years
something with
after it
the
comes out.
titles. Now you do it digitally, and like half the things have openings like that, right? But the opening of all that jazz with all those Broadway lights in 1979 is pretty insane.
Yeah.
They had to build
I mean,
that.
well, yeah, but it's also like I was saying, it's like there were probably like experts who knew how to do those things to build those things, whereas now nobody knows how to do it. You couldn't get like for a certain amount of money you could get a few neon signs made. You couldn't probably you would have to almost like train a bunch of people if you wanted to make a room full of neon signs for your film now.
Hmm.
Like that just wouldn't happen. Or you contract the it's like how what was it what when the vinyl thing kind of blew up there was a thing where I think was it Taylor Swift who like had so much vinyl produced that nobody could make any of it like a couple of years ago. There's like all the pressing plants were busy.
No, I'm not sure. I didn't catch that bit of I have a bunch of records, but they've just been sitting on a shelf for 15 minutes. I have to buy a new turn for 15 minutes, 15 years. I need to buy a new turntable.
I embarrassingly my turntable I accidentally bumped into the start button on my turntable and then it just, the needle went down onto the rubber mat and it was just there for like probably a week because I
Hmm.
was like, huh, I thought the noise it was making was like interference from the speaker, you know?
Yeah.
Because it was like I was
Okay.
like,
So
huh,
new turntable time for you.
I need a new needle.
Well,
That's the
needle.
thing.
Yeah, good point. All right. I
And
guess we will close it down for
infrastructure.
today. Infrastructure of your
That's my point, is
turntable.
you need the infrastructure to be able to build all your cool stuff.
Oh, right. The point before, not your turntable. Gotcha.
Yeah, well, that was sort of a vinyl tangent. That
Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, it's you need the infrastructure in place to be able to build cool stuff. So
Right.
hopefully um I don't know. Hollywood, well, it's probably all doomed.
They need a few
There's no
machine
hopefully
shops.
really. Yeah, they're
No,
probably all
hopefully.
gone, man. It's probably all done.
Hey,
Everyone's done.
it's been like 3 months since there's been anything to see in English at the local theater here. The last,
Yeah.
I think Captain America comes out next week, but literally, I keep looking like I was looking like December and January. It's now February, and there's just like nothing that's not in Japanese. So
Yeah.
yeah, there
I
are no
know
movies anymore. I guess is becoming real.
I know many people who've just given up on looking for work or just trying to change fields. And it's like, whatever amount of experience they had, and surely older people than them are throwing in the towel. So it's like that expertise is just like ball it up, throw it away,
Yeah.
it's done. So yeah, you need to
Hooray for
I don't
Hollywood.
know.
There's no business like show business.
There's no business. That's it. There's no business. There's no business. There's no business. There's no business.
Mm, I think that's a bad lyrical rewrite. You did a bad, that's a bad song.
Oh well, I hope no critic reviews my
I just
Broadway.
did. I was a critic reviewing your song,
How
which
many
was very
balloons?
derivative also, by the way.
How many balloons out of four?
Popping all your balloons. All your balloons are
Lame.
popped.
Lame. All right. Well, I'm gonna go have a heart attack, I guess,
Okay.
like
As for
everyone
this,
else on the podcast.
yes, yes. As for this podcast for Films of Filth, do leave us a groovy review or something like that. uh Podcastiopodcastius.org. You can get all our stuff. We talk about the Twilight Zone at Time Enough Podcast, Planet of the Apes in Space 1999 on Podcast 1999. There's Luke Loves Pokemon. There's a Game Show. And all of that is also on Patreon if you feel like supporting the thing we do.
Yep.
How's your heart attack coming along?
Oh, it's getting there. It's just gonna build up really slowly, and then it'll finish when we're
Mm.
done recording.
Okay, and you'll have a few musical numbers, but yours are bad. You had a bad song. That's
Yeah,
your music. That's your musical number.
yeah, mine'll be like shit. Dun, 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 why am I fucking dying? Dun, 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 dun.
You're no Bob Fosse.
All right. No, I never claimed to be because I stopped drinking and also am not going to be on I refuse to be on Broadway because that's too high profile.
Hmm.
Come see my play nowhere. It's not
Do we
it'll
do some
open
jazz
nowhere.
hands though? Can we get some jazz hands? There we go. Yay.
Jazz hands for Matt's birthday.